Okay. Um, I really am not good at making videos, so I hope nobody makes fun of me. I just really wanted to info dump. That's just it. I like to say that's important, and it is, but it's really just me wanting to info dump. Pride might be over, but queers never die. Welcome to my presentation. How gay are you? YGO characters. So I will be telling you which characters are gay and how they're gay as a bi-pan bitch. Everything I say here is subjective, is what I would say actually if I didn't base everything in canon. So I'm so sorry, but I am the most important person in the room. I am the most correct person in the room, and what I say is law, unless specified. So please enjoy. First off, we're going to talk about Yugi, Yami, Atem, the Pharaoh, and they are pansexual polyamorous. So it's very clearly pansexual because the flag is worked into their color story. Some people might want to say that, like, oh, well, Yugi and Yami can't be in a relationship because Yugi is the reincarnation of Yami. Not true. One, Yami has been a soul stuck in the Millennium Puzzle. He never got the chance to enter the reincarnation cycle or enter the afterlife. That's like what the whole end of the series is about. But Yugi is just happens to be like the current day version without the reincarnation worked into it. He got really lucky. But so polyamorous is the fact that, like, you can throw any character, whether it be Joey or Taya or Seto Kaiba, into this mix, and that character will have a different relationship with Yami and a different relationship with Yugi. Like, it is really quite interesting to watch. But so they are just the most clear example of what pansexual and polyamorous is. Next, we're going to have Tristan Taylor, Duke Devlin, Serenity Wheeler, and Taya Gardner. All four of these characters are straight, but they're four different types of straight. So Tristan Taylor has internalized homophobia. So if you were to approach him and say, hey, you're like straight, right? He would not freak out, but he would get very defensive and he would begin to question why you're questioning it. You could take him to therapy, and after enough therapy, he would probably be okay and much more secure in himself. But as of right now, he is just very on edge and really wants to be just that straight guy. But he is not the kind of straight person with internalized homophobia who will vote for someone who's like running for office, who is pushing for an anti-LGBT agenda. He would like not vote for that person. So that's great. We like that. Duke Devlin owns a mirror, so he's well aware of why you're asking if he's straight. Duke Devlin is the kind of guy who absolutely maybe tried in college, like at least did something, dated a guy, who knows, and realized, oh, this isn't really for me, and hence to stick to women. I think there's the possibility that if the right guy came around, he might be willing to date him, but as of right now, I don't think anyone's going to meet his standard. Serenity Wheeler is homophobic, but she's a very specific type of homophobic. She's not the all gays go to hell kind. She is, if you are or have been a phenomenon in high school or middle school, and you were starting to question your sexuality, whether it be like lesbian, bisexual, whatever, and you decided you were going to come out to your friend, and she wasn't really your friend, you were just friends because you shared like 3 of the same classes together and sat next to each other. So you came out to her, and her immediate reaction was like, oh my god, you don't like have a crush on me, do you? No, I do not. So she's that kind of homophobic. And she's also the kind of person who would probably want like a gay best friend, but like the stereotype kind of gay best friend. And when it comes to like electing officials, if they're pushing for anti-LGBT, she'd probably be like, that doesn't affect me. I don't know what the problem is. I have gay friends. I don't know. No. So she's that kind of person. Could you, with enough therapy, get her out of it? I don't know. Taya Gardner is a full ally. She is absolutely going to use her privilege to try and fight for our rights. We love Taya Gardner. You can't make me hate her. Taya from Dark Side Dimensions movie specifically is bisexual. But I think by the time Dark Side Dimensions happens, she's probably had enough interactions with people and has realized, oh, there are women that are my type. I think before this, there was never really a woman in her vicinity who was her type, who was available to her. And so this wasn't really a thought that she could entertain. And by the time this movie happens, she's been able to experience a lot more. So this Taya is bisexual. Seto Kaiba. Seto Kaiba has the 3 Ds. He's dramatic. He has daddy issues. He has a dragon king. I know what you're thinking. He's gay, right? Wrong. He's bisexual. He has a dragon girlfriend, and he fucks Joey Wheeler. Joey Wheeler is a himbo. He does not understand the spectrum from a sexuality, a gender, light, or autism point. He doesn't understand any of it, but he is supportive, and we love stupid supportive men. They're fantastic. But because he doesn't understand the spectrum, he is confused when he's being fucked by Seto. And that brings to the next point, which is, unfortunately, yes, Seto is the top. Seto just has way too much swag to bottom, which is really unfortunate. But there is like a silver lining in this whole situation. And that is that the Blue Eyes White Dragon is a lesbian. She turned into a dragon before ever dating Seto. Now this actually has to do with lore, weirdly enough. So this is Kisara. She is the original holder of the spirit of the white dragon. She was an albino in ancient Egypt, and being an albino in ancient Egypt would cause people to kind of freak out. It's very funny that a show about a children's card game was sooner able to clock that a white person in Egypt would be weird sooner than major religions like Christianity, but I digress. But so she holds the spirit of the white dragon. She met Seto Kaiba's incarnation, which is Priest Seto, and he saved her twice because, again, white person in Egypt. And when Seto was about to get attacked, killed, something, one of those threes, she sacrificed herself for him. And her soul was able to go into the stone slab, which holds the Blue Eyes White Dragon. And so she stuck as the Blue Eyes White Dragon forever. Priest Seto has proclaimed that he was in love with Kisara. Kisara never once reciprocated. Not even when she sacrificed herself. She sacrificed herself with the idea of like, this guy has saved me twice. This is what I can do. So that's why I believe the Blue Eyes White Dragon is a lesbian. Now, if you're wondering, is Priest Seto's love of Kisara the reason why current day Seto is obsessed with the Blue Eyes White Dragon? Yes. Yes, it is. And there's another thought here, question maybe you have, probably not, maybe it's just me. The Blue Eyes White Dragon, it's a lesbian. Does that mean that the Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon is a lesbian polyamorous relationship? I think yes. And further to that point, an additional question, because Kaiba is somehow dating the Blue Eyes White Dragon, does that mean that Kaiba, and by proxy his boyfriend Joey Wheeler, are in a polycule with the Blue Eyes White Dragon? I also think yes. So next on this list is Bakura, Yami Bakura, and the King of Thieves. So regular Bakura is gay. Yami Bakura is also gay. The King of Thieves is pansexual. Now, how do we get from here to here? Well, the thing is that that's easy. The King of Thieves, it's in his name. I think he's going to steal everything regardless of gender. Current day Bakura is gay. I think Bakura is so gay that when the spirit of the Millennium Ring, the King of Thieves, takes over his body, he has to be gay. I don't think he can skirt around it. And I don't think it's as big of an issue because he's pansexual, so he's into anything. But that's incredible that this twink is so gay that he made an evil spirit gay. Stunning. On the topic of Bakura, we have to talk about new Bakura design, which was seen in the Dark Side Dimensions movie, versus classic Bakura design. So Dark Side Dimensions Bakura, this is homophobic design. I don't know how we got this. Like, none of the other characters were redesigned in a way, like, so dramatically. This is dramatic change when you look at everyone side by side. Maybe the closest is Taya, but even then, it's not that crazy. I'm so upset. Versus classic Bakura design, like, this is peak character design with bisexuals in mind. It's stunning. He's in the classic mall gay kind of fit of skinny jeans, a striped shirt, and a button up over it. Stupid. His hair, the fact that they've like gave him like layered bangs, but one of those bangs specifically is able to like seamlessly like point up for some reason whenever he decides to turn evil, like just to signify like, hey, this is the other Bakura. Like, you don't often see regular Bakura. They saw it at the very beginning of the series when they introduced Bakura and he was kind of being weird and they were like, oh, Bakura, but then when it's like revealed that he's currently evil, then they like introduce the bangs flipping up into like a little antennae and being like, look, I'm evil now, I'm channeling evil. That's genius. Perfect. I love it. I've never met a bisexual who watched Yu-Gi-Oh! And didn't love Bakura. Perfect. Maximilian Pegasus. I said I don't know, but the truth is that Pegasus probably demi, whether it be demi-romantic or demisexual, I am unsure. Because the thing is that Pegasus is canonically married and in love to a woman. Did that woman die? Yes, but we move on. And so I think it's the fact that he has just such a strong connection to his wife. And then he never moves on. He's very flamboyant. So like that's why like the whole fandom is kind of like, oh, he's gay. And yes, he's got weird tension with like Kaiba. But really, I think it's more of the fact that he probably just hasn't had that connection with anyone else. And so we're just like, all right, he's just a fruity wife. Fruity wife? Sure. Marik Ishtar. I am gay, I like long, weak cocks. I'm a super gay, I like long, weak cocks.
Thank you for your attention, and I hope for your support.
Alright, now that joke's over, let's actually talk about Marik. Marik is transgender. This hit me like a ton of bricks. It was like an epiphany 2 weeks ago. Marik can be, this is one of the times where like it is up to your interpretation, because Marik could probably be interpreted as either male to female or female to male, or even like either gender to non-binary, and it works like flawlessly. I tend to hang out in the theory that Marik is born female, transitions to male, and so identifies as male, and so I'm going to be using a lot of he, him pronouns, but there is a wrench, which we will talk about, that does make me think my theory is wrong. And I have been able to like work the theory into a way that fits my agenda. But there's no denying like how it could be wrong. So in order to understand the theory that Marik is transgender, and we are going to be following my favorite theory of being born female, transition to male, we have to first look at the family tree of Marik. So we have Mrs. and Mr. Ishtar. We're going to call them mom and dad, easy peasy. So they are tomb keepers, and they are tasked with protecting the pharaoh's secret, millennium times, yada yada. So they are stuck underground. We don't know how many tomb keepers there are. We don't know how they were able to get married, what that decision making was, but we roll with it. So mom picks up Odeon, who was abandoned as a baby, and she adopts him as her child. Mr. Ishtar is uninterested in Odeon. If it was his decision, he would not have Odeon at all. Mr. Ishtar really wants a child to obviously carry on the tomb keeper role, and he really needs it to be a son. They don't really specify why it needs to be a son, but it's, for some reason, it has to be a son. And so mom is kind of pushing. She's like, we have Odeon. And he's like, no. It needs to be a blood son, which is super annoying. So they have their first like child together, which is Ishizu. Not a son. Not great. So he doesn't, Mr. Ishtar doesn't show animosity to Ishizu, shows more indifference. Odeon, as of right now, he's showing mostly indifference, a little bit of animosity. Marik is born. Fantastic. We have a son. Thank God. But in the process of having Marik, mom dies. Unfortunate. I need you to follow me on this, right? So, Mr. Ishtar really wanted his son. Really wanted Marik to happen. But why is it that he doesn't show him any sort of care? I'm not expecting him to dote on him or to, like, fulfill every wish, you know, because obviously he doesn't want him to leave the tomb and experience the society and, like, outside world, because then Marik will want to maybe abandon the tomb keepers. But Mr. Ishtar has such a strange obsession with keeping Marik completely isolated, even from, like, other tomb keepers, and just having it be his small circle of Ishizu, Odeon, and, like, himself. And really, he is constantly, like, not in the picture. He's leaving it very much up to Odeon. Like, once Mrs. Ishtar was out of the picture, he was able to be like, you are no longer my son, you're now a servant. Just really drive home that he does not like Odeon. And again, Shizu, he has indifference. Like, he doesn't really show care or whatever. But it's so strange with Marik, this kid that you wanted so badly. And that's why I think Marik isn't the firstborn son. He's the second-born daughter. Because what happened... Okay. Once again, stay with me. Hear me out. From Mr. Ishtar's perspective. Oh no, I've had a second daughter. I need a goddamn son or else I'm stuck with Odeon, right? Mrs. Ishtar has passed. What are his options? Again, we don't know how marriage works in the Tomb Keepers. We don't know if he can just go and ask for a new wife. Probably not. He can't leave the tomb and convince a woman to marry him and have babies in a tomb to stay there forever. That's crazy. But Mrs. Ishtar, the only person who could somewhat stand up to him, enough to be able to keep Odeon around and, like, treat Odeon well, she's now gone. Odeon and Shizu know that they need to obey him and not upset him and just do what he says. So Mr. Ishtar is able to present this lie of, Marik is my firstborn son. He is going to carry on the Tomb Keeper's legend, and that's why they have to carve it into his back at such a young age, probably before puberty hits, before any of the other Tomb Keepers can catch on. That's why Odeon is tasked to, like, take care of him, like nobody else is able to take care of him. That's why he reacts so strongly anytime any little thing happens to Marik, because of course he's trying to protect Marik, because he's like, oh, I need to, like, keep this one alive because this one has to be the son. But also he's like, I can't let anyone else find out. Odeon has to take care of him. I have to take care of him. Shizu has to take care of him. All three of us have to take care of him and not let anyone find out that this isn't actually a son. And I understand maybe the logic of, like, okay, well, Marik probably left the Tomb Keepers after his dad murdered. So when he, like, in society realized, oh, well, I was born a girl, would I, transition back? But no. One, he's been a boy all his life, and, like, Marik's focus in terms of experiencing the outside world is he wants to be free physically, and, like, no expectations of the Tomb Keepers. So yes, maybe he'd want to try it, but really gender is probably the least of his problems. But let's talk about the wrench, right? This theory of, like, okay, well, maybe he'd want to try to be a girl again. Taya Gardner comes in when we talk about that. So there's a climactic duel between where Marik has brainwashed Joey Wheeler and Taya Gardner. Joey Wheeler has to duel Yugi, or one of them dies, and Taya is being held as a hostage, and her life's in danger, so nobody will interfere, right? And so Yugi obviously wins. He releases the mind control from Taya and Joey. They're free to go. And then they're on the blimp. And Yami Marik takes over Marik's body. Marik's soul is, like, pushed out of it. But Marik is still has control over Taya. He's able to pop in, control her body, speak through her, yada yada. Why Taya, though? Why not Joey? Because Joey wasn't, like, knocked out. It's not for a while that Joey's knocked out. So, like, he could have easily controlled Joey, who is A, physically stronger, and like be a duelist participating in Battle City in the finals. Like, he could control him. He has more access probably to certain areas and to certain people. Why not control him? With the theory that Marik was born female and transitioned to male, it could be that Marik saw the one opportunity, like, oh, I can experience what it's like to be a girl, like I was robbed of, hangs out in Tea's body for a while, realizes, not for me, moving on. Or this is where, like, it's primarily Tea that, like, really makes me think I've got this wrong. Maybe Marik was born male and wants to transition to female. So Marik's soul has a stronger connection to the female body, to Tea Gardner's body. And that's why. Either way you spin it, it's just stunning. Either way, Marik is transgender. Congrats on your transition. I love it. On to GX. Jade and Yuki. Jade and Yuki is gay, but in a straight way. And I know that sounds crazy, because what does that mean? So Jaden has an obsession with, like, Jesse Anderson, who he's like, oh, this is the only person who ever understands me, gay. And to a point where, like, when Jesse is stuck in the, like, other world, I'm gonna call it, Jaden gets such tunnel vision that he almost kills all of his other friends to save him. Gay. But what do I mean by in a straight way? Jaden just existing, just looking the way he does sound like early 2000s alternative pop rock, like 303, Blink-182, Smash Mouth. Like, that's the soundtrack you hear when he just is in frame. So I think he's just a straight guy stereotype, but he just happens to be gay. He just is gay. But the thing is that when the non-binary demon moves into his head, he does get gayer, and I think that has to do with the angst of it all. Yubel is a non-binary demon. I don't have anything to add here. Like, there's nothing for me to say about Yubel, but I have so much to say about Bastion. So Bastion is canonically straight and a furry. And when I say canonically, I don't mean that in, like, a jokey kind of way. I do mean for sure we see it happen in the show, confirmed. This is not what makes Bastion a furry, because by this logic, Joey Wheeler is also a furry, right? And we just didn't talk about it because it's not as interesting. Yes, Joey Wheeler had a dream about Kaiba putting him in a dog suit and a leash, and then it's constantly referenced throughout the show that Joey is a dog, or they put him in a dog suit. Like, it's always Kaiba calling him a dog. That's gay as hell. It's gay as hell. Anyways, so one of the first, like, fantasy kind of tropes or fantasy arcs in Yu-Gi-Oh! GX is the 7 Stars arc, where a bunch of the duelists have these keys, and they're all supposed to protect the keys, and they're having to duel a bunch of less interesting shadow hunters, most of which are kind of based off card monsters. So Bastion is tasked to duel Tanya, who she's an Amazonian warrior, so she's big and buff and beautiful. Love her, slay. And Tanya's whole thing is that she's like, I want a boyfriend. And she points at Bastion and she's like, you're going to duel me, and when you lose, you're going to be my boyfriend. And Bastion's like, I'm not going to lose. And then he loses. And so Tanya's like, you're now my boyfriend. And Bastion's like, yes, I'm your boyfriend. Bottom. Love it. So bottom and straight confirmed. Put a pin in it. In 2001, Futurama aired the episode where members of Planet Express and Zap and Kif from the Star Trek reference all get stranded on the planet of Amazons. And the men are sentenced to death by snoo snoo, death by sex. Iconic TV moment, right? Put a pin. Pin is out, all right? Because just remember that. Just remember that. We're taking the pin out. We're back to Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. There is a panning shot of Jaden and all his friends looking at the arena after Tanya beats Bastion, and she's like, okay, she's like, I'm gonna hang out with Bastion, she's like, because he's now my boyfriend, and all we're gonna do is just duel. Everyone leave. And so you get to see Jade and all his friends hanging out, watching the Coliseum where they duel and where Bastion and Tanya are. And it's a panning shot, and all you see and hear are like little explosions, and Bastion's like screams because he keeps losing duels over and over and over again. And if you can't see that as Bastion being sentenced to death by Snoo Snoo, I don't know how you can't see that. How do you not see the parallels there? So Jaden's like, hey, I gotta go check on my friend, maybe go save him. So they go in, and Tony's like, I'm bored of Bastion. He keeps losing. She's like, I don't want him to be my boyfriend anymore. And then she points at Jaden, and she's like, you're gonna be my new boyfriend. And Jaden's like, get your game on. And then he wins, right? And Tanya is like, okay. It's like, I now have to return to my real form. And she animorphs into a tiger. And then further animorphs into a Duel Monsters card.
So JK, she did not animorph into the Duel Monster card, but she is just the white version of this Duel Monster card, which was also hanging out the whole time with her. So you can probably understand my confusion that I would remember her animorphing into this. No, she animorphed into a tiger and then left with the tiger. So I don't know how that makes it better, but whatever.
And so the implication here is that Bastion MISAWA fucked a Duel Monsters tiger I need you to know, this is something I've known for years, and I've had to carry the sin of knowing this information for years, and I finally get to bestow it on other people. Like, this is a heavy weight on my shoulders, and finally, everyone else gets to know that canonically, Bastion MISAWA fucked a tiger. Hell yeah. Okay. Moving on. Who's on this list? Jasmine. So now we're at Chazz. This is the part where I talk about Chazz for too long. I love Chazz so much. And he has had such a disservice to him as a character, right? So I could be wrong, but I'm fairly certain that Chazz has gone through something called Flanderization. And Flanderization is named after Ned Flanders from The Simpsons. So, and it's the process of a character at the beginning of the series having a character, like a specific character trait. And as the series progresses, that specific character becomes a flattened version or like a caricature of that character trait. So Ned Flanders, what it's named after, he starts out kind of like a nosy neighbor and like just good old like kind of like Christian guy, like goes to church every Sunday. And as the series progresses, he becomes, I believe the term used was a Bible thumping Christian. I'm not really sure what Bible thumping means. What I think is a better example is Peter Griffin from Family Guy, where he starts out from the series like kind of goofy and like kind of stupid. And as of right now, if you were to watch Family Guy, you'd be like, he's just over the top stupid. It is, I think, the best example of like a character becoming a caricature of one of their traits. Anyways, I believe Chazz has gone through Flanderization. He starts out the series as like an arrogant prick, kind of a Seto Kaiba. He's very obviously supposed to be the Seto Kaiba of GX, even though he does still have his own kind of like personality to it. He is not just a full Seto Kaiba clone, which we don't need a clone of, but it's absolutely helpful to have a Seto Kaiba-esque kind of character. Just this character who's very arrogant, just to juxtapose your main character, right? And then as the series progresses, I think is after the introduction of his spirit card, the Ojama, that he really becomes like this gag kind of character. And as the series progresses, even more so, he becomes more of a gag. It's really quite upsetting. Because I don't think it'd be really bad to have this like Seto Kaiba-esque arrogant prick with a weird little like invisible googly-eyed Speedo-wearing dude who's like, hey boss, should we eat some cheese and crackers? Like, that's crazy. Could you imagine Seto Kaiba with an Ojama running around his head? He'd go nuts. But like, he also wouldn't, because he's like a robot. I love it. Anyways, but so I think Chazz has gone through like flanderization and is just really done a disservice. The Yu-Gi-Oh! GX manga, which was written by Naoyuki Kageyama, and I believe like supervised by Kazuki Takahashi, is really well done. It's only 9 volumes. I highly recommend you read it. But there's like a 4 coma in one of the volumes where Naoyuki Kageyama is talking about writing the story, and he was like, I can't write Chazz. He's like, I can't write this weird gag character. He's like, Kazuki Takahashi, he's like, can I change it? And he was like, yeah. He's like, I don't see an issue with him having a different personality. He's like, change any of their characters. And I was like, I don't care. Incredible. But so in the GX manga, Chazz is much more closer to like a Seto Kaiba kind of character, but you can tell he has more of a heart and soul than Kaiba. I love Kaiba, but like he's very robotic. Chazz very clearly, even though he's like headstrong and silent and stoic in the manga, like you can tell he's got heart and soul in it still. Anyways, back to talking about homosexuals. So Chazz starts out the series as straight trademarked, right? You were introduced to him, and he is the son of a very wealthy family. He's the youngest of like 3. And so there's a lot of expectations on him placed by his family. And Chazz is first introduced and first meets like Jaden, as Jaden is doing the entrance duel against Crowler. And it's very clear that Chazz looks up to Crowler and really admires him. And then he's incredibly upset and angry at Jaden when Jaden wins the duel against Crowler. And so the thing is that I think Chazz looks up to Crowler because Crowler is so unapologetically himself. He is flamboyant, he is over the top, he is everything that Chazz cannot be because of his family's expectations of him. And Jaden comes in, and Jaden represents, because again, he's gay in a straight way. He's a straight stereotype. Chazz has never met him. He has no idea he's gay. And so Jaden comes in and represents the expectations of his family. And Jaden wins against what Chazz admires, someone just being themselves. So yeah, I would also hate Jaden in this scenario, right? And so Chazz has to deal with the fact that he's like, oh my god, he's like, my family's expectations have once again won. He's like, I have to just be the best. I have to be the best. And it doesn't help that his family is showing up and they're like, hey, his brothers are like, hey, so I have control of the political world. He has control of the economic world. He's like, we need you to have control of the dueling world. Which does sound stupid saying it out loud. There's no denying that. But when you understand how important Duel Monsters is in the Yu-Gi-Oh verse, it does make sense. It sounds really stupid saying it out loud. But so Chazz constantly is just having to fight the fact that Jaden represents everything that his family wants him to be. He's beaten the things that Chazz admires. And so it's just, he's getting it from all sides. He's getting it now at school. He's getting it from home. He wants to be free. And so he finally runs away. He is disowned by his brothers and he runs away and is planning to go to like North Academy. And he's able to finally make it in after, because the whole thing to get into North Academy is like you have to like build a whole deck out of random cards that you find all around like glaciers. North Academy is for some reason coded to be like Russian, and I'm not sure why. That's not explained, but we're not gonna like really dwell on it. So he gets all these cards and he walks in and suddenly is surrounded by huge men, just nothing but men. And they've decided they're going to do an initiation. And they're like, you have to take on all of us. And Chazz with his whole chest, I can take like 4 of you on at once. Gay as hell. Oh my God. And so it is through this where he beats down all of these men, and they are so in awe and they start to respect him that they start calling him in the Japanese sub Aniki, big brother, and then in the dub they're calling him boss. Like,
they worship this twink. Go off. But so it is at North Academy where he is accepted by all of these men that he's like, okay, I'm gay. And so then he returns to regular Dual Academy and he has to deal with Jaden. And at this point, he's probably realized, he's like, oh, Jaden is also gay. He's like, well, I'm in it already. I don't like you. Doesn't matter if we're on the same team. And so he hates Jaden. And then the 7 Stars arc happens again. Very near the end of the arc, he is beaten and a lot of other duelists are beaten. And so they're all transported to what is essentially the Shadow Realm and they're all like floating in bubbles. And for some reason, they don't explain why, but Chazz wakes up. And it could be that he either woke up in the Shadow Realm or he hallucinated and dreamed that he woke up in the Shadow Realm. But so he's the only conscious one in this space where time isn't real. So he has no idea how long he's been there, how long he will be there. He has no idea how much time has passed. All he does know is that in this void space, he gets to stare at Alexis Rhodes, arguably one of the most beautiful women in the Yu-Gi-Oh series. And so it is while he's staring at Alexis that he has to come to terms with things like, hey, do I think she's beautiful objectively because she is? Or do I think she's beautiful subjectively? Is this something that like, it's like, I have attraction to this? And so he's probably sitting there and probably like having to think this over and over and over again because he's by himself, just staring at her. And then he's probably able to come to terms with like, okay, I am bisexual. And we love that for him. We love a bisexual king. I love Chazz. Oh my god. Okay. Alexis Rhodes. Alexis Rhodes is a lesbian. Once again, please read the Yu-Gi-Oh! GX manga because I think Alexis was done a disservice in the anime. Alexis is pretty much the only female character in Yu-Gi-Oh! GX with really any agency. There is Blair Flanagan, but Blair is primarily like characterized by her crush on zaNE and then later on Jaden. I don't like to talk about Blair. I don't really like Blair. I don't want to talk about it. But Alexis Rhodes is first and foremost a duelist, and that is a very key point, both in the anime and then in the manga. It is vaguely suggested that she has a crush on Jaden, but it is so vague and really only has focus in like season 4. The only season that didn't air in America, so really it doesn't count. Anyways, Alexis Rhodes is a lesbian. I love her. Oh my god, what a queen. Atticus Rhodes is the king of pussy. Atticus Rhodes presents as a fuckboy, but I think he respects women. I don't know why I have to say that as a question. I just think he's such a dork. He's a dork, but he is like supposed to be cool. But he's not. But he can canonically get women. And I think he would respect the women that he does pull. So, Atticus Rhodes, king of pussy. Here's a speed run. I forgot to add a transition. Austin O'Brien is trans. But you have Jesse Anderson, who is bi with a male lean. You have Evil Jesse, who is strictly gay. I think once the non-binary demon Yubel moves in, you're suddenly like kind of just gay. You have Gecko Adrian, who is homophobic. You have Crowler, who is a retired drag queen. You have Jim Crocodile Cook, who is bisexual. I'm so excited to talk about zaNE. So zaNE is another fascinating character to look at because his character arc, his journey, is also comedic. Just like with Bastion, this is a real thing that happened. I can't make this up if I tried. I love it. So zaNE throughout high school, he peaked in high school, let's just say that. zaNE Truesdale is asexual. At the very beginning of the series, when he's introduced in high school, he is asexual and sex repulsed. He is uninterested. He doesn't want to be touched by other people. Like anytime you see him, there's like a solid like foot between him and whoever is standing next to him. Stunning, right? So zaNE graduates. He suffers a terrible defeat as he's like pursuing his career in dueling. He suffers a terrible defeat by Aster Phoenix, and then it goes on a full losing streak. And it gets so bad that he is then approached by some weird shady guy, and he's like, hey, I want you to come and participate in this
illegal underground dueling ring. The patrons are gambling, and the duelists are in a cage, and they are forced to wear bracelets and I believe collars. I don't think collars, actually. I think it's just the bracelets. I don't think they could or like draw in the collars, but they're supposed to wear bracelets that distribute an electric shock anytime you take damage. And so at the very beginning of the duel, zaNE is really going through it, but by the end of the duel, he is getting such a rush from inflicting pain and receiving pain that his entire personality like does a 180. And suddenly he is asexual and kinky. And so he then pursues like professional dueling with this idea of like, I'm going to inflict pain, and every once in a while I'm going to wear these electric bracelets where they shock me. Doesn't matter if someone else is wearing it, as long as I get pain whenever I'm hit. And then every once in a while when like someone's like trying to be like, hey, maybe you should stop, he's like, here, wear these bracelets. So then we're both getting shocked. Like, zaNE is both a masochist and a sadist. That's a canon thing. I'm at a loss for words. Like, Yu-Gi-Oh! GX is a masterpiece for the misfits and the misunderstood. It's an incredible series. How do you... Asexual, sex repulsed, kinky, don't touch him. He just wants to get off on it. Oh my god. Welcome to Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds is an incredible series. First and foremost, the very first episode introduces you to classism and police brutality. That's not an exaggeration. It is quite clearly there. Incredible. It also reintroduces one of the hottest characters to ever exist, which is Yusei Fudo. Like, people who are uninterested in Yu-Gi-Oh!, you can put on Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds and they'll be hooked because Yusei shows up and you're like, oh my god, who is that? Because he's broody, he's angsty, but he's still polite and you love it. And even though people want to make fun of the fact that like, oh, he's riding a motorcycle, once again, when you understand how important Duel Monsters is in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Verse, it does make sense. I could talk for hours about it, and I will spare everyone that suffering. But so, all of my friends who really love Yusei Fudo, because of course you do, how do you not look at him and like fall in love? They don't like me when I tell them that Yusei is asexual. So in order to prove that Yusei is ace, allow me to tell you about what Yusei pulled and ignored. Yusei pulled a golden retriever punk boyfriend, a goth boyfriend in a crop top, a big-tittied witch girlfriend, a lesbian, Selena the Queen of Tejano music, and a cyborg robot boyfriend. This is just a fraction. These are just the most important pieces to signify that like Yusei like is like pulls like really difficult people. A lesbian? Selena? These are real things that happened. And Yusei was like, I'm not interested. I just want to ride my motorcycle and play my card games and like hang out with my dragon. Like, Yusei's ace. He's absolutely ace. Now, Yusei is also a signer, as well as Jack, Akiza, Crow, and then one other. Luna? But Luna doesn't count in this. Yusei, Jack, Akiza, and then the Crimson Dragon. I think because the bond that the Crimson Dragon has forced these three characters to have, no, four, because Crow Hogan, right. So the Crimson Dragon has forced these four characters into a polycule. If I had a nickel for every polycule that involved a dragon, I would have 2 nickels. And I don't know what to do with that 10 cents. Most Yu-Gi-Oh! Characters can be described as a dramatic bisexual in a long coat. And Jack Atlas is the prime example of dramatic bisexual in a long coat. He purposefully will get on his motorcycle and drive it around in circles at night thinking about Yusei. And then he's got a crazy like tsundere style like relationship with Carly, I don't think I can find a better example of a bisexual aside from like Chazz. Incredible. I love Jack. There's a lady speedrun. So you have Akiza, who is, she's probably demi, because Akiza has those like psychic abilities that she awakened when she was really young. So she really lost affection from her family, and then she was manipulated and like taken advantage of by like whatever that society was called. I can't remember what it was, but like for a really long time, and then finally was able to experience like care from another human being Yusei. So I think she immediately like gravitated and like grabbed that and has held on to it. And as much as I understand and love the Akiza and Yusei ship, it just, to me, it feels so one-sided, unfortunately. But so if I believe Akiza is demi, and she just needs somebody to show up to show her that same kind of affection for her to have that connection with someone. Carly is straight, but she is on thin ice. She is one like drunk night out, a beautiful woman like whispering in her ear like, oh my god, I think you're so pretty, away from like just being bisexual. So she's really close. Misty and Sherry are both lesbians. I think Misty is the one that's going to whisper seductively into Carly's ear. Misty is the reason why Carly became a dark signer. Like, I'm sorry, it's right there. It's super on the wall. Crow Hogan, another one of my favorite characters. I love these side characters that you're not supposed to love. Right? Like the ones that you're like, oh, you'd probably like them, but you don't like love them. They're not your favorite character. No, Crow's one of my favorite characters. Crow Hogan is straight. However, it's important to note that he says, I'm not gay, but way too often. So much that you want to like sit down with him and be like, hey, do you want to have a conversation? And you never do. You never do, because you're just like, I don't know, maybe he'll figure it out. Because I don't think even having a conversation, I don't think he's going to figure it out. Bless his heart. So, I will not be criticized. You can try and disagree with me. But I, unfortunately, have stared at the ceiling for far too long, thinking about Yu-Gi-Oh! That I think everything I just said makes a lot of sense. So, have a great day.